The next movie is, I'm hoping, something that's better than B+. We'll see how far the two stinkers drag it down. We've got Midsommar, the 2019 film Midsommar, which is one I picked, so I guess I'll do the rundown of it. We have, I don't remember a single one of the characters' names, going to be honest. We've got White Woman, and she has a family that's fucked up. Her sister is fucked up, and she commits a double murder, suicide on... I don't know why I said murder-homicide. You know what I mean. She kills her whole family and herself with carbon monoxide gas, basically. Her whole family fucking dies. She's traumatized. Her boyfriend wants to break up with her, but because of this traumatic event, he kind of can't. They're also planning a trip to Sweden with one of their friends. Pele, I know his name. I remember him. And Pele is like really incessant on having White Woman come with them as well, even though the rest of the group doesn't really want her to come because, you know, it's like his girlfriend that he doesn't really like coming on a trip with the boys. Doesn't really make sense. She ends up coming anyways, much, you know, the chagrin of everybody else. And they immediately get there. They start taking drugs right off the bat. They basically never stop taking drugs throughout the entire movie. And it's like some weird Swedish, like summer solstice festival thing. I don't know exactly what it's about. They get all sorts of wacky shenanigans happen. People keep disappearing as there's like more fucked up shit going on. Like people kill themselves, and some friends they met along the way get like disappeared. Basically, they do like random other fucked up things as they're trying to like accomplish their thesis. Like two of them are trying to write a thesis, and they also disappear until slowly it's whittled down to just the boyfriend and White Woman, and then White Woman's boyfriend, I don't know why I'm phrasing it that way, gets raped by some fucking chick because he's like absurdly high on drugs, has no idea what's happening. And then at the end of the movie, she's been totally indoctrinated into this cult that's hosting this festival at that point, and she chooses to sacrifice her boyfriend when she had the choice of sacrificing some random other person, and he dies as part of the ritual sacrifice of this cult on this great, lovely festival. And then the movie ends with her smiling. Anyways, that's Midsommar.
Yeah, this movie was hard to watch sometimes.
All right, Tanner, tell us why you're rating it F tier.
Let me go on my little diatribe on this film. Now,
this is gonna be great.
I have a lot of the same praises and critiques of this film as I do of X, and I suspect I'll have these same praises and critiques of every A24 film going forward, which is that it's very well made, it's very well shot, the acting is good, the writing is good, all the things are good, it's very, like, technically sound. But I don't see the point of why this movie exists. I don't, like, for me, this one falls into the category of, like, wouldn't it be fucked up if movies, which is where the plot of a movie can be summed up as, wouldn't it be fucked up if, you know, there was a Swedish cult that was killing people? And the answer is always, yes, it would be, which means it's not interesting. Now, let me go on a bit bigger picture rant here. There are two primary approaches I think people take when they're making a film. There's making a film as art and making a film as entertainment. And there's two main ways that a film gets made. There's more indie type makings, and then there's more sort of corporatized, mass-produced shit. Like, you know, the summer blockbuster, like your modern Star Warses, those are mass-produced entertainment. A24 has figured out how to make mass-produced art films. They all have very similar feels and motivations, and the problem is, when you mass-produce art, it stops becoming art. It's just this soulless thing where you look at it and you're like, that's nice, you did a good job of the thing, but there's no soul here. There's nothing here to glom onto. I'm huffing massive copium, but go ahead.
I would disagree on basically most of what you just said. Also, I think it's bad to pigeonhole yourself into the assumption that this movie has no real meaning behind it, in the sense of like it's just some like slasher film to be a slasher film. I think there's plenty of things you could liken to this movie towards trying to represent. Like, I think a really easy one is you could have it be some like cautionary tale towards cults, and I could explain that a bit more. Mostly just because I think this movie really tries to go out of its way to make you not see what's happening as this is a cult doing fucked up shit, and it actually just be some crazy festival that's happening. And two, that I got lost in the sauce. I forgot what I was trying to say. But basically, the TLDR is that the movie goes out of its way to try and justify a lot of the actions about what happens. Like, for example, the guy pisses on the sacred tree. There's justifiable reason for why something bad would happen to him, because he, like, you know, he did something horrible to these people. The guy also took pictures of their sacred text. That's also another horrible thing that he should have done. The foreigners freaked out and ruined their ritual ceremony. You know, something fucked up that they shouldn't have done. But of course, it's not really their fault. A lot of this isn't necessarily their fault, but it goes out of their way to try and show that there is justification for the bad things that are happening with this cult. And also, of course, our main character, white woman, isn't really seeing a lot of the bad stuff happen. She's kind of just being thrown around like nothing is really going on at all. People are kind of just making her feel good most of the time and giving her stuff to do, whereas all the other people are kind of the opposite, as you can tell, because they're all getting fucking systematically killed. And I think you could look at it as a cautionary tale against cults, because they do a really good job indoctrinating white women into their cult, because they're doing a good job deflecting a lot of the reasons why things could happen, both onto the audience and also onto her, with their justifications for why these people could be disappearing or whatever. And then they're also, at the very end, I'm assuming they went out of their way, the cult did, to position her at the end of her like little carriage ride thing so that they could hear the fucking rape happening basically of her boyfriend, and that'd be kind of like the breaking point that like kind of solidifies that she is totally alone in this world. Her last...
To be fair though, they did also tell her not to go in there.
I think it's reverse psychology.
Fair enough, yeah, I think it's also reverse psychology. I think the assumption was that they're trying to do that so that she could be into it, but there's different ways of looking at it. And that's just like one way you can look at this movie. This is an artistic film, as Tanner said, and I think there's a lot of different ways you can interpret it and why somebody would make something like this. I don't want to pigeonhole you into something. I think this movie does a really good job at a lot of things, though.
I mean, I feel like this film is much more straightforward than really either of you are giving it credit for generally, in my mind. I don't think there's anything really super complex happening here. I did end up watching a few reviews prior to this, and I will say one thing that really stood out to me is that people really fucking hate the boyfriend in this movie, and I don't really get why that is. Like, he seems like a generally pretty normal guy for the most part. Like, every now and then he does, like, you know, he's not being, like, perhaps, like, as empathetic as he could be, but generally speaking, he seems like a pretty normal guy in these, given the horrific situations he ends up in here.
Honestly, a lot of what he does is like pretty commendable too, for the most part. Especially given his position being that he wants to break up with her anyways. The love's kind of gone. The only reason they're still together is because this traumatic event would make it hard for him to break up with her. Yeah. But he's doing good things. He's waiting for her when she passed out from that bad trip. He's trying to comfort her. He was trying to stop her from doing the drugs in the first place. He does all sorts of random things. You know, he's trying to make up for the fact that he forgot her birthday. Random little things like that. That show that he still cares about her. He's still giving her attention. I don't know why people slash him so hard like he's some horrible character. Like, he really doesn't do that much. He really just doesn't do bad at all. And I guess that kind of ties into the ending. When I was also watching reviews, and a lot of people shockingly see the ending as a good ending for some reason. When to me it's very obviously a bad ending, but I guess that's kind of the point of movies, is to be like open to interpretation. Because like from my perspective, you guys can disagree with me on this. The ending is supposed to say that she basically fucked up. She's kind of gone crazy. She's been like fully indoctrinated into the cult at this point. She obviously chose to sacrifice her boyfriend because she's just like into horrible headspace. She's drugged, all this shit. And it's not supposed to be a good ending. She fucked up basically, and now she's part of this horrible death cult. And that's the movie. Whereas a lot of people like were... She finally found a group of people who are like really empathetic towards her, you know, and you like understand what she's going through, and they're like, you know, they're really able to like, you know, give her what she needs here, you know. Yeah, and there's also a weird fucked up cult that killed all her friends, and a lot of people see it as like, boyfriend was a horrible person, he was an abuser, all this shit, and he deserved to die, and basically her sentencing him to death was a good thing because now she's like broken the shackles of her abusive, horrible relationship, and now she's finally free to be herself or something. That's how a lot of people interpret this movie, which I think is weird as fuck.
People are boss girling cults.
Yeah, weird as shit.
Like, one of the fucking wildest interpretations of this film that I saw, which again, I feel like this film is fairly straightforward. I don't think you need to dive this into it. But one of the weirdest ones I saw was that, like, well, you see, the real horror of this film is the fact that we view these religious practices as being something that should be scary.
Yeah, I think if
It's like,
you
what the
run
fuck
around...
are you talking about? They're murdering people.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're gonna go around assimilating people into your village and your culture and then murdering them and justifying it as a ritual that's happened for the past centuries...
It's scary that we're not more accepting of this culture.
Yeah. I agree with Nico that literally this movie is more simple than people are making it out to be.
I'd also agree.
I think it has this layer of ambiguity over it that, in my cynical opinion, is sort of a writer's sleight of hand trick meant to fool dumb people into thinking there's more to this movie than there actually is.
Yeah, I was watching this movie hoping there wasn't anything more complicated going on. I was really hoping what I was interpreting from the movie was what was going on, and it kind of sounds like I was correct, so...
Yeah, I'd also agree with everybody here that this is a pretty simple movie. It's got a specific thing it's going for, and I think a lot of the movie is based around foreshadowing. They do a ton of foreshadowing in this movie, and I think because of that, people think it's a lot more complicated than it actually is. They lean into it too much. And honestly, I don't even think this movie's really that artsy. I just think it has a specific art direction it goes for, and it has a specific style that it nails really well. But I don't really know if it's really that artsy. I don't think they do anything that crazy that they're like trying to, like some art house film piece.
Well, that's why I'm saying it's mass-produced artsy. It's like corporatized, like assembly line artsy movie.
Maybe I'll agree with you once we watch Hereditary or another one. I want to get another data point here, because this movie seems very different to me than X in that instance, if you're trying to like liken them to be kind of in the same category of that.
We do have 3 A24 films under our belts now, though, so like, you know... I feel like we've got...
What's the other one besides X in this?
The Witch.
Oh, I didn't know it was an A24 film.
Yeah.
That was also
and I feel like I've
different
been very
style.
consistent on my opinions here.
I don't
Fair
know.
enough.
These movies are hard to watch. I'm gonna have to definitely go back and change my ratings now at this point. I did think that this was better than X, though.
I agree.
Which is unfortunate, because the rating I gave this is lower than X, so...
I actually kind of disagree. I didn't like this one quite as much as X.
Damn.
Fair. I could yap about this movie for a very long time. I have a ton I want to say
do
about
it!
I don't really...
You like thinkers,
dude,
Jackson. You do like the thinking movies.
I don't want to sit here for a fucking half an hour talking about this movie. I like this movie a lot, but I guess I'll say one thing about it. Because I haven't really been that negative about it.
It's so boring.
No, actually, I think I was basically completely engaged in the entire movie. I don't think I was ever really that bored. The biggest thing that kind of sucks about this movie, and there's a lot of different justifications as to why this wouldn't be a negative to some people, but to me it definitely is a negative. It's just a lot of the movie is forced to happen because of characters doing dumb shit and being just dumb in general. Like, for example, a lot of this wouldn't have happened from the first place. Well, I mean, I guess how do I phrase this? Well, I guess for one thing, let's just like use a data point here about like one dumb thing. I think the first dumb thing that's like really big is the first like thesis guy, like the guy that's like intended to go here for thesis from the start. He knows about what the first sacrifice bullshit is. He knows what the ceremony is. Also, Pele knows, and he doesn't tell them. And guess who he doesn't tell? He doesn't tell the fucking woman that was here to help, like, get over the loss of her entire family who just died. And he goes and subjects her to watching 2 people fucking kill themselves right in front of her. Insanely fucked up. I don't know why he would not warn her about that. That's a super fucked up thing to do.
Well, he doesn't see it as a bad thing, you know?
But he's a dickhead for that. It's stupid.
I do want to add to that. This probably doesn't detract or add or whatever. I was originally thinking that for a long time, but then once we reached the end, I mean, I kind of figured that there was going to be something up with everything going on, but I think it was all just the cult thing. Like, we don't realize how many of the actions were being done until the end of the movie. He probably just did that because it's just part of, I don't know. I guess my point is invalid because it's still, he wants her to stay there, so never mind.
Yeah, exactly. Pele's whole motive was here to get people to sacrifice and also to recruit white women. That was like the main intention behind inviting all these people. Yes, Tanner?
And then kill himself.
I know, right?
A little fun story for the audience. Jackson mentioned how he was engaged this entire time. I can attest that because he told me and Nico to shut the fuck up at least 3 times throughout this movie.
Because you guys kept talking in the middle of them literally talking in the movie, and I wanted to hear the fucking movie, and I hear you dickheads commentating about it.
I think that was really only Tanner.
You guys were yapping a lot, and I was trying to tell you guys to shut the fuck up so I could watch the movie. Yeah, I definitely don't do that very often in movies, but I was definitely pretty engaged, and I wanted to see what was happening.
Also, one of the characters was an Indian girl named Connie. I believe this is a Steven Universe reference in this movie.
It might just
Crazy.
be. I will
She
say,
kind of looks like her, too.
yeah. I will say, one thing about this movie that I'd heard a lot about X, but I really didn't see it there at all, but I definitely see for Midsommar, is that this film was unexpectedly more funny than you would think it would be going into it.
Funny.
Yeah.
I can kind of
There were moments that were downright hilarious, Dylan. Like that fucking sex scene. Holy shit, dude.
Oh, I did laugh at that. That was
fucking
pretty silly.
hilarious.
That was very goofy.
And just the still, like, centered shot of him in that bear costume, that was pretty goofy. Anyway, are we ready to rank?
I hope so.
Yeah, I'll stop yapping. Dylan, you want to start us off?
Oh shit! I think I gave this movie a B-. I gave this movie a B-.
Holy shit.
No way. I give this movie a B.
There we go.
What was with that
Tanner.
look, Tanner? What?
Well, see that now you guys are going to be like, well, what the fuck are you talking? I gave this
Tanner.
movie an A.
Holy, what the never mind.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck you guys are smoking by this being a B. I legitimately don't understand. I think this is a very well-made movie in a ton of regards. I thought it was very entertaining. This is definitely like an S- to an A+ for me. But I give it an A+. I don't think it crosses the threshold of S-.
It's not my slice of pie, Jackson. What can I say?
Mostly just because I was trying to talk about it more, but again, I don't want to fucking yap for like half an hour about this movie.
I don't know.
Like a lot of things being kind of like stupid in the way they force things to happen. Where
Bonus session?
yeah.
I don't know. I just came out of it wanting a lot more than what I got. I guess, like, I had heard that this is, like, one of their better films, so I was expecting a lot more from it, which isn't entirely fair, but at the same time, like, you know, it didn't quite scratch the itch I was feeling, you know?
See, I'm not expecting anything from this studio now, so...
Yeah, I'm gonna look at your tier list later on, Nico, and compare this movie to other ones you have on B.
Upon further review, before we leave the realm of Midsommar, upon discussing with you boys and, you know, gathering our thoughts and mulling over the plot a little more, I think I might actually raise my rating of this movie.
To what?
Go ahead.
A-.
A-. 3 rating increase. There we go. Nico's the contrarian this week now. And that, with that re-ranking, it now puts it at an A-.
Sweet.
You know, Nico really just can't understand a movie like this. It's really cerebral, you know?
It's way over his head.
A little too big brain for me, I suppose.